Welcome to the Be Wealthy podcast, where we bring entrepreneurs the strategies and tactics to grow your business and unlock new opportunities. Once you've achieved success, we'll teach you how to think about your money. Because wealth is about more than just cash flow. It's about freedom. Now our host, Brett Tanner.
Welcome back to the Be Wealthy podcast. I am so excited for today's guest because, like myself, she is obsessed with human performance. What makes us better? How do we get incrementally better every single day? I couldn't be more excited. We were actually just talking the last 20 minutes, going back and forth, and we're like, we should just turn the mic on and start talking. And so you're going to get to hear that now. Shayla, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thank you, Brett. It's an honor.
So before we jump in, I want to start with the early days, right? It's easy to look at someone like you who's one of the top loan originators in the country, wildly successful and has a massive world and asset base. And what I call, right, you're truly running a family office, right? You are absolutely, in every definition, doing really two things. And every one of the users out there and one of our members and guests are doing the same thing, right? I have two beliefs. Everyone's running a bank. Right? You've got inflows and outflows in your world, regardless of how big your world is. And you can run a really great one and a really crappy one. And that's your choice. And you're also running a family office, right? Family offices used to be, you'd have $100 million plus, you need multiple families. So you could bring all those services, legal and financial, all in-house. And today, with technology and the way the world is, where every one of us is running a family office. And Shay, you are doing it better than almost anyone I know. So I'm so excited to break down your trajectory, your life, and everything. So let's start with, here's Shayla today at the top of the mountain. She's done all these incredible things and tackling the world. Take me back to Shayla. Where did it all start? Did you start with tons of money and you grew up like, oh, I just had an incredible playbook that I just followed what my parents did?
Yeah, so I'm 44 today. I live in Reno, Nevada. We spend time between Reno and Tahoe. I've got two daughters that are 14 and 11. Galen and I have been married for 16 years. You know Galen well. You're coaching Galen right now, and he's probably one of the coolest dudes on the planet. And just like, I just feel so lucky, honestly.
You took the words out of my mouth. He really is like the coolest dude I know. Like, he is the coolest dude. There's no other way to say it. And brilliant, and the coolest dude, which is so rare.
And so much fun, which has been good for me because I'm quite intense and focused and driven, and Galen knows how to smell the roses and like just actually, enjoy life, which I've learned so much with him. So my parents both came from impoverished upbringings and devastation and losing parents and divorce and poverty and different things, and so they started a business young. My dad was in drywall and stucco and construction for 40 years. Him and my mom started the business before they were allowed to have a construction license. And I was born when they were 21 years old. And so as a little girl, Brett, I really didn't feel like I was seen or paid attention to, or even kind of was very special. I think I really wanted to be daddy's little girl and sit on daddy's lap and play. And he was coming home at night with his drywall boots on and rolling out a set of plans and going back to work. And so early on, I realized or I made a decision in that young brain that I'm not good enough, and so at
what age is this? How old are you when you had this experience?
I've done a lot of work now at 44 to figure this out because it's been really helpful for me to figure out how to keep unlocking to that next level of wholeness, of joy, of success, of leadership, of peace. And so I think around the age of 4, I remember really wanting to, play and be swung around and dance and all those kinds of things. And, kind of getting the message that we work around here and, you need to be independent, you need to be quiet, you need to be happy, just in your room doing your thing, you need to toughen up, And my parents prepared all 4 of us to be warriors and to be able to meet the demands of the world and be confident and capable. And so in many ways, I felt like I was kind of dropped in the deep end. I didn't feel very nurtured by either, not even my mom. And I didn't really feel very protected. I kind of felt pushed, come on, step up, step up, step up. And I'm really grateful for that because it gave me courage and resilience and this like work ethic that's inexhaustible. At the same time, it's, evolved my life to be an achiever, to say, okay, well, if I'm not good enough, how am I going to stand out? How am I going to be special? How am I going to be chosen? And so I became obsessed with being extraordinary and figuring out how to learn how to get good at things. And I don't.
I told you I want to positive was because so much was great right there. I want to ask you: were your parents intentional about raising warrior? Like you used the word. I love that because I just in a text with my wife. It was literally yesterday, but I said that, honey, we're raising warriors.
Yeah.
The world's a tough place out there, and our kids need to be tough. They have to be tough. I was having a conversation with my oldest regarding something happened with the car, and I was hard on. And I said, son, I need every day. I need your personal best. I don't need anything better than your best. I'll lose with your best, but anything less than your best, I can't accept. So were your parents, was that intentional lessons to raise warriors and like that, or was that just their nature?
No, it was very intentional. My mom and dad did not come from families or upbringings that they wanted to duplicate. They wanted a 180 experience for their families and their children. And so they were very intentional, like, you're going to get your ass kicked out there and we're going to make sure you're rough and ready and can do that. And so when you talk about having a high bar and high standards for themselves in the way they showed up every day and how hard they worked, it was also expected from all of us. And I can happily say all four of us are successful, independent, happy, successful kids. And it's pretty awesome. In fact, I'm sitting here in this office park in Reno, Brett. My sister works for me here at Gill Mortgage. She's 4 doors down. She's now my number 2 or 3 loan officer. She's crushing it. She's 31. And then my 2 brothers, who are 2 and 4 years younger than me, they own several businesses and construction, a real estate brokerage, subdivisions, all the stuff. They should be wealthy with us. And they're in we're in an office park that they built. So all 4 of us are like literally in the same parking lot every day, which is really sweet.
You don't go 4 for 4 with kids that are wildly successful without there being, right? That's not luck, right? Anybody can hit one. Give me an example of maybe a lesson. I think because it's helpful for our listeners to think like, are they being too hard with their kids? So give me a lesson, or could you give me an example of maybe getting thrown in the deep end of the pool, or one of the lessons or a couple of lessons they taught you?
I think one of the things my mom taught me all the time was like change the channel. So really about mind over matter. So one of those is like I'm laying in bed and I'm scared and I'm having, bad dream or something like that. My mom used to say, change the channel, as if it was like on the TV. And so if you don't like the channel and what's playing in your mind, change it. Switch your mind, switch what you're thinking. And I'm very able to do that. And in some ways healthy and unhealthy, right? I mean, there's definitely like what I've realized is that there's been many years of my life that I've definitely suppressed my emotions. I've, abandoned myself. I have sacrificed my health, my sleep, my whatever to be that super achiever, to win, to be the best, to be exceptional. And, after doing that a number of times, you start going, okay, this is ridiculous. How do I balance myself a little bit instead of being so extreme? But that ability to change the channel is really important. Nobody in my family does excuses. My grandmother just died 2 weeks ago. Brett's why I was asking about your dad too, at 95. She still was laughing and giggling every visit that I visit with her. She lived independently until a month before she died. She paid her own bills. She went on a couple miles of walks every day. She grew up in World War II. She had like a lot of tragedy in her life, and she never gave advice. She never complained. Even when we knew she was in pain, she was like grimacing. She would not ask for medication. Like we literally had morphine. We had a hospice, and at the most we gave her like baby Tylenol. So a lot of it isn't about what's said. It's more about how we model. And that was the modeling in my house, which is like, dry your eyes, lean in, go to work harder. You've got to earn it. If you want it, you've got to earn it. And so that's kind of the early upbringing. And then, I grew up with brothers, and my sister came later. She's my half sister, 13 years later, and my dad was older, more mature, and also probably more comfortable with having boys. And so I saw him, lean in a bit more with the boys. So I also got comfortable with the boys. I've been at your events. There's a lot of men in the room. I'm very comfortable in that setting. And so it's all served me very well because I can find the resilience and I can go for it. I'm now at 44 exploring how to be more feminine and soft and let go and be playful, all these parts and sides of myself that I kind of just threw to the side because I was like, yep, there's no time for that kind of stuff. And so it's been a fun journey that I've been on to kind of embrace all parts of myself. But I wasn't naturally good at most things. I was scared. I was in my head, but I wanted to keep up with my brothers, and I'm competitive enough to like get it. But in school, I never got less than an A because all of a sudden they put the scores on the wall. Do you remember when they did that? And it was and then all of a sudden having a 4.0 meant something. And I was like, oh, well, if people brag about you and you're special and you impress people with a 4.0, then I'm getting a freaking 4.0. And so I would just do whatever it took, even if it meant writing out 300 flashcards and studying halfway through the night. And so the interesting part of the story is that I end up going to college. I have an academic scholarship, not because I'm like naturally really smart. I just work my ass off. And then I drop out. So I, start getting into sales because I just really never really felt like I fit in, right? And I think most people that are in your world and my world that are extremely successful, from a young age, I just kind of was like, all right, I'm going to tolerate the people around me, but I don't really feel like I fit in. My extraordinary drive, the way I want to go and do things in the world, like my impatience. And so when I got to college, the truth is I'm like, I could go to one cake party a week, maybe two, but like not four, like I just didn't feel like these were my people. And so I answered an ad to get in network marketing, and I started going to meetings and started selling weight loss pills and vitamins. And it was so exhilarating to me. I love the idea that I could be my own boss and I could be a 3%er who is going to write my own ticket and carve my own path. Of course, watching my parents be entrepreneurs. I wanted to do that. And you asked, like, what was my financial upbringing? My parents, because they worked their ass off so young, did well. They built themselves a 5,000 square foot custom home at like 28 years old that I ended up growing up in until I was 18. They ended up getting divorced, unfortunately. And so mom and kids stayed in the house, and mom remarried another contractor. And because of the nature of construction, there are some ebbs and flows. There was points of times where our house was on the market and it was off the market. It was on the market. It was off the market. Or my dad's living in the tiniest little shack with his new girlfriend and driving an El Camino car. So it was never a time where I felt like we're rich and we're rolling and I'm safe and I don't have to do anything.
It sounded like you were there though, like the 5,000 square foot home, that era. Did you feel the money there? So you got to feel some pretty good highs.
Oh,
you felt some privilege, but then you felt, does that impact your story a lot, feeling the privilege and then have it be less stable, I guess is the best way to say it.
Yes.
Did that impact your story dramatically?
So my story to be driven is two things. Number one, love and belonging and safety, which is that I need to be exceptional to be good enough to be chosen. So that's just my personal thing. From a money standpoint, why I wanted money was for stability and also to be able to shop at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. Like, I just love eating healthy, clean food. I have since I was 16. So the interesting thing is when parents get divorced, it opens up a whole new world too. And I've done a lot of processing on my parents' divorce. My dad ended up falling in love with the most amazing woman who was very different. Talk about soft and feminine and lovely. She was a waitress and she had 2 daughters. So all of a sudden, I now have girls in my life and I see my dad swooning over her. And she called him Superman and he called her goddess. And they were like making out around every corner. And it was like so cool for me to see him be madly in love and go, oh, like that's cool. That's what I want. My mom got remarried to a guy who fawned over me, who just had never had a daughter. So he just thought I walked on water, and he really adored me, which was really cool for me. And he loved to travel. My dad was like a Nevada guy, hunter, like stay local. Mario took us to Mexico and to Hawaii. I didn't see the ocean until I was like 12. And so I got this broader experience about the life I wanted to live through these things. But yes, the instability of divorce, and then the instability of like, are we okay? Like the house, can we keep this house or not keep this house, is what made me want to be successful. And so when I met Galen, and he's a dreamer. I mean, Galen's like, look, if there's 70-foot yachts in this world and we're in this body right now, well, why the hell wouldn't we want to do that? Like, if there's a private jet to be had, like, of course, why wouldn't we want it? And I've just not thought like that, because I'm like, well, you got to earn it, and what's realistic, and, I'm going to plod along and hit goals. So when we kicked off our life together, we knew we wanted a big, adventurous, awesome life. We wanted a lakefront on Lake Tahoe where, that was our dream. We're big boating people. But I was like, okay, I know I'm good at sales, and I know I can grind my face off, and I'm in the mortgage business. And we got married at, 28. I was making like $300,000 a year, which for a college dropout and a blonde chick in Reno, Nevada, I thought that was just like amazing.
But at 28, that's a ton of money. That's a ton of money.
Ton of money. And so I did some worksheets, like similar we do in Be Wealthy. And it was like, the Monte Carlo simulator. And it was like, okay, if I can get 4 million in the bank, then I will be able to like run off to the jungle if I want to. I could take my cell phone and throw in a pond.
This is what you told yourself at 28?
Because I wanted freedom. When you talk about your definition of wealth is the freedom of purpose and location, and to do what you want, when you want, how you want. Like I felt a little bit trapped by this drive and this need for security. And I've always been a little worried about myself being a workaholic and not having any fun, and life being totally a blur. And so I really was like, I just want to hit the number so that I have options, so that if I want to just go to the jungle, I could. And 4 million was the number. And so that's kind of like where I started, in sales and getting up to a place of success. But it wasn't until I started getting a coach and going to conferences, which happened right at 29, like right after we got married, that all of a sudden I really took off, that I really learned how to put all these pieces together and not just be a hard charging, super driven, high personality salesperson, but become a business person. And then later become a multi-dimensional, person. And that's kind of the intentionality we were talking about.
But how cool is it that at 29, so we're the same age, we're both 44. So at 29, you kind of all of the skills and life, you're successful, you're doing the work, you're coaching, you're starting now, I'm going to go to conference. And the economy is giving you this gift. It may not feel like a gift at the time, but it's about to give you a massive gift, right? Because world's going to get weird hard, not unlike the world we're going into today. I think like, in 2009 would have been, or whatever, let's call 2006, I feel like was 2 years ago, right? Ish.
Yeah.
Right. The euphoria, things don't make sense. How long does it last? And then, and so then I did like you, I did not know. I was crazy successful in real estate in those years running up to the downturn. And then it was like, ooh, this is new. But immediately I was able to pivot and go, oh, there's a massive opportunity that no one wants. I'm going to go after it. So now you've got the downturn coming. Yep. You're getting into the events now. What happens from here?
So it's really cool that we're the same age and we're doing the same thing at the same time. Yeah, I remember being on a vacation and being like, how you never had laptops or like your phone's hooked up. So we would go to the business center and like Gail and I were checking on the price of stocks and we're just watching the world fall apart, right? Obama's getting elected in 2008. Every other day, Lehman Brothers is failing. Something else is failing. It was just the weirdest time. And I think Bank of America stock had dropped like $17 or $12. I mean, it was just nuts. And Galen had a little brokerage account. And he's always loved the public markets. And so, he's like picking stuff. I mean, he bought NVIDIA so long ago. I just don't know how he has this like Renaissance man, like intuition, but he does. And I am out going door to door to get refis. Okay. Because when they did the first quantitative easing in 2009 and rates went essentially from 6.75 down to like 5.5, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how long this is going to last, but I got to go help as many people as I can. And I pulled title lists and I went to new home subdivisions because I knew they were all first-time home buyers with all FHA loans. And I did merges of their loan amounts and like reran, and I just literally knocked on doors and like talked to people about FHA streamline refis. I got on the news. I was doing all these weird things.
But see, you're out. I gotta anchor this in because I think people, they look at you today and they go, yeah, but see, sits behind this beautiful desk, has got this amazing, massive life. But they miss the part of I was door knocking in 2009, which is, by the way, door knocking, the most effective lead generation channel on earth. Now, today, I don't know, is it a little different today? Because I think it's still the most effective from a safety standpoint. Like, there's no way I would feel comfortable. I wouldn't want you doing that today, right? I mean, I don't want to go crazy on that comment, but I'd be concerned, right? Even like when we do a hard button, like what our staff, if we have female staff going out to a problem, I'm like, nope, you're going, someone's going with you. I just don't, I want you to be safe. I was door knocking too for short sits. So I know exactly what it's like firsthand. I was one of the people that were in foreclosure, losing everything and say, look, I can help you. I at least can get you a way out of here. There are options. There is a way for you to get money. But people don't really, they miss that part that when all of your peers were probably leaving the industry, right? Just going, it's over, I'm done. And you go, I'm going to do some weird thing. I'm going to get on the news, but I'm going to door knock. Like that's what winning is a mindset. The two things I tell my kids every day, winning, it's a mindset. And you have to anchor that into your soul that winning's a mindset. And the second thing I tell my kids every day is your life will be the sum of your choices. Nothing more, nothing less. And they go, what does that mean, Dad? Well, it means whatever it means to you. Do you, at the end of your day, when you replay your day, do you believe those choices will lead you to the life that you want? Because your life will be the sum of your choices. So I love this 2009. So how long are you out there knocking doors for?
And by the way, I brought my brother. Which you may have met Clint. I'm not sure, but Clint has a real estate brokerage here. He played football in college at Fresno State, got a straight A's the whole time, and got his MBA in 5 years. Who's very impressive, super driven kid as well. And and then he goes off and plays in the NFL a little bit. But in that meantime, he graduated in like the worst financial market to graduate in, right? And I was like, Clint, get over here. We're going to run refis. We literally set up a desk that was like a Tupperware pop-up. It was probably like what you'd use for TV dinners. And we set him up and I'm like, Clint, you're going to run these numbers. When I would go on the news, I did like a 60-minute or 60-second financial talk. And then we would answer the phone at the news station. And Clint would have a phone and I would have a phone. And then he went out door knocking with me. And then I ended up convincing him to get his real estate license. And he and I both went and got a real estate license together. I never did anything with it. I never hung in it. But then he launched into real estate because I saw these short sales happening. And then he went on to build a real estate brokerage and on and on and on. So long story short, I didn't really have a plan. I wasn't running a business. I was just running out of like, thinking entrepreneurial and where's the opportunity. And so in 2010, so in 2009, I did like 200 transactions that year, but I didn't know where they came from. Any of those things. So when I started getting coached in 2010, a coach said to me, Shayla, are you relational or transactional? And I was like, for sure, relational. I mean, I will run through traffic for my clients. I will work till midnight. I will answer the call in the middle of any dinner. Like that's the kind of professional I was at the time. And they said, okay, well then go back through all of your transactions, your closings in the last 12 months, look at where they came from. How are they referred to you or where did you land this business? And then tell me how many referral partners you have or business sources that refer you over and over and over again, where you have a business partnership, a win-win relationship with somebody. And out of 200 transactions plus, I was like, oh, I don't know, probably 15 different people refer me over and over and over again. Brett,
this was your first coaching? Was this your first coaching experience? Okay.
This is my first coaching experience. And the market was already shifting in 2010, right? Because we kind of had this big refi run with we were doing HARP loans because you could refinance when you're upside down. And we did a lot of streamlines because the quantitative easing. So in 2010, I knew, first of all, I had just gotten married. The company I worked for, shut down the branch. And so I was forced to go find a new company. And I was so disillusioned at that point by our industry. There was something called the implodometer, where every other day a different mortgage company was imploding. And I worked around a lot of douchebags, people I would never want to associate with outside of the office. And so when this happened and all of a sudden I was pushed on the sidewalk, I was the number one loan officer at Flagstar Bank. And in literally 45 days after we got married, they're like, sorry, we're going to close your branch. I had 31 escrows going. I had no assistant, no processor. So it was just, I was in crazy town. I was in survival. I was in, oh my gosh, the world is falling apart. I better grab at what I can grab at. So when that happened to me, I took a couple steps back and was like, all right, my parents got divorced. I got a workaholic tendency. I married the raddest guy on the planet. I've got to get my stuff together, because if I'm going to stay in this industry, I want to be around people I trust, I respect. I want to build something that's sustainable, because the way I'm working right now is not sustainable. But I didn't know what I didn't know. I literally had no good mentors, nobody modeling for me. There was no loan officer teams around me that I could look at. And so I went on a hunt myself to go find it. And I interviewed 9 mortgage companies to figure out where to go to work. And I mean, I did so much due diligence. And I know they're like, who is this 28-year-old chick from Reno? What? I mean, crazy. When I met with Guild Mortgage and I flew down there for a day, they were like, who do you want to meet? I said, everyone. And I met the head of accounting, the head of payroll, the head of finance. I really wanted to be intentional about finding the right people and place for me to grow a true business and a career, because I was in love with this, but I was afraid of my obsession. So I find
iteration misses, though, Shayla, what you just said, which is they don't realize in 2010 your options to get better. You couldn't go to YouTube and find 7,000 videos on running a large mortgage team. You either read books, you had a coach, which was not video. I mean, it was phone, or you went to events, right? That was the 3 ways you got better.
Yep.
And anything you really wanted to do, it involved you getting on a plane going somewhere. Is that a fair tell? I did the same with as you're going through this, I'm nodding. So I'm going, I remember flying into Keller. I got to meet this. I got to see what we're doing here. What's this company about? And it's so different today, where you could just do a Zoom, or you could go to and for education purposes, there's a million podcasts that are incredible. So I just want to set everyone's frame of reference, and they might think why is she just doing that? Why didn't she just jump? Well, yeah, because there wasn't an option back then. This was the only way.
Yeah, and it's fun. I'm so happy you're doing a podcast, and I'm as I'm listening to you going, I want to just listen to every single thing that you put out there, Brett, because your philosophies around money are important and leadership are important, but even more so to me, your philosophies around your marriage and the way you raise your kids is next level to me. And so anyway, I'm so happy you're doing this, because it is the generous thing to do. And I think you and I feel both the same way, which is we had some really good timing. The market really helped us out, in addition to being balls to the wall, obsessed with learning and growing and improving and having a winning mindset. And I never wanted to get to the top of my financial mountain and just say peace, because I hit that $4 million number at 34 and was oh, now what?
So we do got to set the stage, though. So leaning into that, right? I want to ask you, did you believe, okay, what year is this? You said 34, so we're now in 2014?
Yep.
So 2014, you get there, And I want to know, what was your perception before you got there of when you hit the number? Like, what did you think would occur? And then the second question is, when you got there, what actually occurred?
So it was 2015, and I just had my second baby. Gwen was 1, Gemma was 4. I'm not somebody who sits around and like imagines the future a lot or lives in my imagination. I want to be. I want to be more creative and in my imagination, but I really just don't. Like, I'm a very hyper focused, what needs to get done, run really freaking fast, and everything else is a blur except what I'm really focusing on. And I think there's a time and a place to be that obsessed and singularly focused, because, what I got done in 5 years, like 5 years, I got it done in 5 years. And some people will take, a whole career to still not get to the place.
Or a lifetime and not accomplish it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
what happened? So you didn't have a perspective. You just said, hey, I want to hit this goal, and I hit it.
Yeah.
And when you hit it,
I just was like, there was just a number. That's a destination. But yeah, nothing changed.
Well, my story's a little like, I had a number, right? I would hit this number. And I believed that when I hit the number, unlike you, I believed that lights and bells and sirens would go off, and like the problems of the world would get easier and everything would be radically different somehow, right? This is my, early 20-year-old brain. And I hit the number, and I remember looking at it was my girlfriend at the time, thinking, honey, nothing changed. Like, I'm the same as I was yesterday. And like in that moment for me, I realized, it's not, there's destinations we're going to pick because we have to have goals and targets, but it's really about the journey.
Yeah.
Right. Like, that was where I reframed. I'm like, this magic number that I set a line in the sand, I'm going to set a new one, and I'm going to hit that. I'm going to set a new one. I'm going to hit that. And they're meaningful, but nothing in your life changed when you radically got to 4 minutes. It was different than at 3 or 2, right? Once you've got enough rice and beans, and you're secure, extra dollars, they help, they enhance your life, no doubt. Like, your life today is incredible.
Yeah.
But there's this really interesting, there's a book called The 7-Day Weekend by Ricardo Simlar. It's one of my favorite books. Better than the book is the interview he did with Tim Ferriss, and we'll put links in the show notes to those. But Ricardo Simlar talked about, once you hit $12 million in net worth, your happiness does not increase any at all. And I was like, wait a minute, is that real? And I went back in my life, I went, because he goes up to that moment, when you get, you're a really small house, a really small apartment, you get a bigger one. Once you get the house you love, maybe you get a second home that you want, you're now traveling in, if you got a $12 million net worth, you're traveling in first class when you want. He goes, from there, the things that you acquire just get bigger. The house gets bigger, the boat might get big. But he goes, you don't get the same feeling as the first, like your first boat that you got and it was great. That was awesome. Now you get the brand new, you're like, it's cool. I love it. And I love all the bells, but it's not I didn't get more happiness out of it. The happiness was created on the first one. And so I think it's so important for the listeners to think about, yes, your life will get better, but then you got to turn internal and go, what do I really want? Like, what's driving me? And where do I get my validation for the world? And where do I get my validation for my partner? And how do I think about those things? And the more you can focus internally, determining your own value rather than externally, right? The more peace you're going to have in your life. So I was curious. I wanted to pause you for a minute and ask, like, did anything radically change at 4 million? Because I had kind of knew the answer was going to be no. So now you keep charging forward.
Yeah. And I will say what happened, what did change for me is that I became evidence and proof that this framework works. And I became even more convicted to go out and help other people do what I did. Because yes, I know I'm driven. Yes, I know I can work hard. Yes, I was given some God-given talents and, whatever. I'm a chick. I'm blonde. I had this time in the market. I have freckles. I don't know. Like, we all have our thing. But like, I really kept saying, okay, I was in sales for 10 years and this was my result. And then I started applying coaching, which meant I was very diligent about my time, where I was focusing my time, energy, and efforts. I got masterful on a few skills. I learned how to be a leader and hire people when and where and what they did. I had a process around my money. So I filled out a budget every month. I had rules around where the money went. Nothing was like MBA level stuff, but I started putting pieces together. And the next 5 years, I went from whatever, 300 grand net worth to 4 million net worth. So I 10x'd in 5 years. And so what I wanted to do more than ever was like shout off the rooftops, like, you guys, you can do this. And, I've always believed in Zig Ziglar's line that if you help enough people get what they want, you will get everything that you want. And so I based my whole working life on that, which is, if I help that real estate agent earn a commission, then I earn a commission. If I help that family get out of the pickle they're in and get what they want, then I get what I want. And so pretty quickly, as I started getting coached, I started figuring out like, whoa, I went from 20 million to 40 million to 80 million to 100 something million in my personal production. And again, I'm the same chick. I just applied some different focuses and tactics. I want to help other loan officers do the same thing. And so anyway, what got me to my next, 10x over time was now just basically helping people do that, saying, okay, what is the roadmap? What are your strengths? How can we intentionally focus you? How do you become a leader? And then that's what I've done. So I've now been in the business for 21 years. I have about 80 loan officers that span all over the country. I run about 12 branches directly where I am, the branch manager. I now have a solid leadership team. We follow the EOS model. I'm really stepping into being more of the visionary. But I found sustainability, Brett, and that wasn't always the case. Like once I hit 4, I was like, ooh, okay, well, maybe I got to move the target to 6, because now I see that life is a bit more expensive and I don't totally feel stable yet. And oh, by the way, I'm 34 and, we got a lot of life to live. And then once it was 6, it was like, okay, maybe 10 feels better. And then you're right. After that, that's not what it's ever been about. It's been like, okay, we're safe, we're secure, we're stable. How do I make this, sustainable? How do I help other people climb to the top of their mountain? And then how do I just keep getting better at all the things? I'm obsessed with mastery, just like you are, that winning is a mindset, and it's fun to keep improving every day.
So I want to go to that journey that you just went on, because I think that there's so much value we can extract from it. And I think there's 3 distinct stages in people's lives. The first one is you're proving to yourself that you can do it.
Yep.
Right? Shayla, that young girl in her 20s, proving just, the 2 biggest fears people have in life, right? Number 1, I'm not enough and I won't be loved. 2 biggest fears.
Yep.
And we all have to work through that, right? When you think you're not enough, well, who's telling you that? Is that external or internal? Like I told my kids, I'm always like, the external temperature does not dictate your internal temperature, right? If someone out there tells you the greatest person of your time, you're probably not that good. And if someone out there tells you you're terrible, you're probably not that bad. So why are you deriving any value from someone else's opinion that you can't change?
Yep.
Do you believe you're a good person? Do you believe you're doing the right thing? So the first thing is you're proving it to yourself. Second part of the journey is you're proving it to other people, right? I spent a lot of time in my late 20s proving to people how great I was. I had some success. I had a little bit of an ego at that moment. And then once I got the awards, the things that I wanted to do in our industry, the third part of the journey, so I started with you prove it to yourself, you prove it to everybody else. The third part of the journey is you prove to others that they could go do it for themselves, right? Exactly. Then you got to that journey where you become really a teacher and a coach. So I'm curious, in your world today, when you look back at those segments, and by the way, the skills are different in each of those buckets. So to me, right, the skills when you're proving it to yourself, I believe that when I coach someone that's young or that someone's not earning the money yet they want, I'm like, everything you read, everything you listen to, and everything you're doing should be to scale your income, right? If you're making 100 grand a year, set a target at 200 and stop at nothing. Get in the room, get the coach, get the thing, he gets 200. He gets 200, then go to 4. And then go and drive that. At some point, you'll be doing all that you've optimized you. Then we've got to go to, okay, I'm going to need a team. And then those skills are radically different, right? The skills that scaled your income, right? And largely it's going to be sales. Doesn't mean you're a salesperson, but I don't care if you're a chiropractor, you're in sales. You've got to sell the next thing, right? So then the next round of skills are managements. How do I hire people? How do I empower people? How do I get people to be driven like I am? How do I give them, how do I help them accomplish all their goals while they're with the organization, that they leave there better because they were part of my company? And figuring out, right, both the direct management techniques and the soft skills, and building both, right? It's one thing to say, this is the goal and you got a hammer, but it's another, let me tell you what the goal means to you and why I care, because it helps you accomplish your goals when we hit this collective goal.
Yep.
And then the last journey, right, is in scaling and vision and all of the things that building a large company, that's process, like you said, EOS, systematizing everything down. And entrepreneurs, I don't think they think about it, that am I building the right skills for the season that I'm in?
Yeah. And or people get overwhelmed thinking they need to have level 5 skill on something when it's like, no, you're on level 1, master level 1, be obsessed with this level 1, put the blinders on. Like you said, everything you're reading and listening to is optimizing you and your mindset. And they're worried about something else, right? It's
everything. I'm going to go in 1,000 different directions. Where, like, to your point, they've got to get laser focused on what actually matters.
Yeah, it's true.
So your world today, I'm curious, what percentage of your time is spent what I'm going to call teaching, coaching, or training? I'm going to call all of that coaching.
Okay.
As opposed to, I'll call it in the business or working in the business or working on the business versus coaching. What do you think those buckets of time are? What percentages roughly?
Well, I have to tell you some exciting things. So, this past year, as I've been really like going, okay, I feel ready for the next level of my life. And an important part of the story is that I did hit burnout to a degree. I didn't run myself into the ground where I was getting cold sores every 3 weeks. I was having a sore throat. I was sick all the time. And I just
What year is this?
This is 2018, 19.
Okay.
So 37, 38. I did a personal offsite. A coach recommended that I do that and like really do a deep dive into myself and what brings me joy and what do I really want for my life, and like, just slow it down for a minute to actually look at it. And it was there that I determined I really had this dream of living abroad. And so I came back from those 2 days and was like, babe, I want to move to Spain. Like, I want to go live abroad. And so we did. So we ended up moving in January of 2020, before COVID, to Spain. And we ended up staying 3 calendar years in Spain. And I, ran the business remote and on Zoom and all those things. So that was a huge shift for me, getting out of rainmaker, sales, production mode into leader mode, but also really into mom mode and into like learning how to just be and not do so much. Europe is really good about being instead of do all the time. And I really wanted that shift in myself, because I've always said it'd be really sad if I, died at 35 or 45 or 55. And basically everyone said, she was just such a good businesswoman. She's such a hard worker. And like, that was full stop, like Shayla in a nutshell. Like, I've wanted to have a life that was much more dynamic than that. I wanted to find the full range of my potential and personality and like really taste life all the way, from friendships to laughter to creativity, like the whole bit. But I'm also practical, and I know that there's a point to be obsessed and to focus, but knowing when to shift is important. And then finding the tools and the courage to actually freaking shift is what I really like, I really empower myself with, because I think it's more natural to just do what you always done versus saying, it's time for me to reinvent myself again and again and again. So I went through a reinvention in Spain that was really good for our family. It really slowed things down. I got to have total work-life balance, Brett, because of the time zone. Because I was 9 hours ahead every morning when I woke up in the morning, everyone was sleeping back in the United States. So I couldn't, even if I wanted to, get on phone calls or Zooms or start emailing or texting people. So I woke up to like, I have 8 hours ahead of me today where no one is going to bother me, and work does not get to come into this. And so it was an epic time. Plus it was COVID and we were closing, 5,000-6,000 loans a year. It was insane. So when we come back from Spain, I really didn't want to go backwards. I didn't want to fall into being triggered by my environment to be obsessively competitive and only work focused. And I wanted to find a way to integrate all parts of what I learned in Spain, of the way I want to show up as a mother and just, being able to enjoy myself, but still be here, walking into my office in my hometown with all the environmental things around me. And so it's been a really cool challenge. And so I've really worked on that next level of reinvention, which is, understanding who I am and why I do the things that I do so that I can live consciously. I can be super intentional about my choices. And I can shift into the Shayla that I want to be in my 40s. Because I happen to believe that you can get, wealthier and sexier and have more fun year after year. I refuse to think that, I'm going to get older and worse, like I'm just getting older and better. And so it's been really fun. I spent a year doing 75 hard and like really, taking time for me and my body. I've found a way to grow our business back up from 450 million a year at the lows back up to $1 billion. This year we'll do $1.5 billion.
Wow.
And then just most recently, I just decided, I said, well, what would impress me if I've spent a life being an achiever, running around trying to impress people so that I will be good enough and I will be loved and safe? What would impress me? Where is that internal versus external validation going to come from? And I said, the only freedom I've never given myself is time freedom. I have been busy forever. My calendar is packed. Even on a day I'm relaxing, I'm doing it to a to-do list, like, take 30 minutes to sit outside. So this summer was like, what would impress me is if I took Monday and Friday off all summer and maybe forever. And I've always admired women who work 3 days a week because I thought, gosh, that just seems perfect. You get your fill, you get the fulfillment, you get the energy of work, and then you also have 4 days to take care of your family and to have friendships and to do your stuff. And so I did it, and I'm sticking with it. So,
And what happened? So two things I want to learn. When you went to Spain, what happened to the business for the 3 years you were there?
COVID happened, so it blew up. We went from $1 billion. We had done $1 billion in 18 and 19 in production. I had about 30 loan officers. So we had a really high productive, high functioning team. And then we went up to like $1.6 billion and $1.9 billion. And
So
20.
while you're in Spain, clearing out and getting through the burnout and really just figuring out what's the next chapter look like? Your business does this.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, COVID drove it, but I would argue, we can't run simulations like what would happen if COVID never happened, what would happen to Shayla's life? I would make the argument that the same thing would have occurred. Maybe not at the same level because COVID just, when rates plummeted, but I would argue that you getting free, because it's get free is my thing, is what allowed the business to go. Because now you're sitting and you're thinking about the business. Okay, I'm not there. I can't walk down the hall and fix it. So it's got to come from processes and ideas and thoughts that only happen when you disconnect from the day-to-day.
Yeah.
So I think I was curious where I would go. I was like, I bet the business went like this. So
well, we had spent 8 years building momentum and brand and reputation and trust and relationships, so that momentum carries you and habits, the high performance habits. I mean, my team, because they, when I started Gildbrett, it was me. It was just me in a backpack. I never had an assistant. I never had a team. I never had a processor. And so in the 8 years that I joined Guild, I told you the 5-year thing, but from 2010 to 2018, we went from me to $1 billion in production, and I had about, 100 employees. And so they all did it the way I did it. So if this is the way I track my sales activity, they track their sales activity. If this is the way we built and hired a team, they built and hired a team that way. If this is the way we run a pipeline meeting, they ran a pipeline meeting that way. And this is how we process a loan start to finish. And this is the metrics we manage. So I had a team that I built from scratch. I handpicked every single one of them. I coached them all because I really believed like if I could do it, they could do it. And they believed me. And I just kind of grew everybody to that point. So yeah, we would have definitely had the momentum and kept rolling with it. The other thing is I'm less of a thinker. I'm more of an intuitive person. So like getting space always, if I'm out on a paddleboard or I'm walking through the forest I've now learned the rejuvenation and taking space is where all of a sudden I light up. Like I just know in my body and my gut where we need to go next. And I didn't realize that was a superpower until I actually started taking some space for myself. And then it's like, oh, just like you're at the cabin right now. I mean, going to Tahoe on the weekends, I get this rejuvenation, this clarity, and then boom, we go execute again.
So walk me. So now, right, you've got this. What are your strategic things? I want to go to now I want to move to the mechanics that these tools and habits, and because I know you're obsessed, like we talked about early on, about human performance, like I am. So when you think about space, how do you go to your calendar? How do you build space in there strategically? What do you do? And then I'll share my model.
And the question I didn't answer was how I'm spending my time today. So I'm working 3 days a week. I work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Now I've been doing launches. Like I have a coaching program called Catalyst, and we've been launching every quarter. I just did my last big event called Slay with Shay in Lake Tahoe. We had 130 loan officers in the room. It could
not be a better name than Slay with Shay, by the way. It's unbelievable.
Except
did Galen come up with that? Did Galen come up with that?
No, my marketing girl came up with it.
Okay.
And
all right.
The fun thing is I'm now like, I think I'm going to shift any future events will be Play with Shay, because that's my new era of reinvention, is being more playful. And so to just be real, Mondays and Fridays, I've not been in the office. Over the summer, I did pretty damn good of being on the boat and like truly being off. But there's definitely some homework and overtime hours that I put in to do what I'm doing. But now the rhythm that I'm in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is I still have my production team. And that's 100% a leadership coaching capacity. I have my district and my branches, which is about 40 loan officers. And that's in a visionary branch manager capacity. So I'm looking at financials. I'm meeting with all my leaders. We're looking at pipeline performance. I'm doing recognition. We're doing branch meetings and sales calls. And then I coach in the industry and at Guild. So I run the branch manager coaching for Guild. We have about 250 branch managers, and we do a call once a month, and we work on leadership and running a business. And then I have Catalyst that I do every week, and I've got about 175 members in there, and I teach them the high performance frameworks and structures that we can go over now. So I spend probably 60% of my time coaching and 40% of my time leading.
Oh, I was curious on that answer, and I would tell you my world probably similar, right? There's one of those books came out there. What's your one word, right, that describes you? And I really thought for a long time, and I was like, mine's a teacher. My answer would have been radically different 15 years ago, but today I spend my time in teaching, coaching. I'm using those but I spend my time teaching, right? I'm helping others unlock their potential. And I think it's so cool that's what you do and you do it so well. So give us some of the habits. Give us some of these frameworks that the listeners can use.
Okay. First of all, I live my life now in quarters. I've developed a planner that I coach off of in Catalyst, because for so many years, I didn't do organization and preparation. I told you I'm an intuitive, high personality driven person, and I'm very comfortable in chaos. So, the only reason I put systems in place is because I'm competitive and I want to win. Like winning is my number one outcome. And so I will do things that are uncomfortable all day of the week to win. So whereas I think my perception of you, Brett, is that yes, you are a mega talent with this incredible brain and ability to communicate and teach and coach, but you are really dialed in with each of your businesses, and each of them has a meeting and has a cadence and has a rhythm and has projections. And I haven't been like that, right? I've been, Galen calls me Shay NATO, just like huge energy tornado. And so, but when I came back from Spain, I was like, okay, I want to shift into true stability. Like true stability. I think, being married to me and being my children is hard when mom is like on a plane and all over the country in a tornado. Like, how do I find that stability in myself so I can continue to work out every day and every week without burning out? So I can continue to feel prime in my energy and feel good, because now that's the goal. I want to feel good in what I do. And how can I continue to lead and run a business where I'm not, spinning 5 different plates and 3 of them are pretty sucky at a moment, and the other, where it's just not sustainable. So I got me and Galen both on a planner when we got back, and it's changed our lives. Every Sunday we sit down and we do what's called a weekly download and preparation. So the first thing I do, and this is all in my planner, I go through and say, what worked last week? And I go through every single moment of my day. I think about conversations with my kids. I look at every meeting. I look at showing up to their games, the whole bit. And I fill up the entire box with wins, because I really believe we've got to have an inner coach, and we've got to empower ourselves, and we have to see evidence of where we are winning. Then there's a box next to it that say what didn't work and why. And this might be, I was really tired. I woke up in the middle of the night. I yelled at my kids, whatever. We showed up sloppy to a meeting, whatever the case is. And then I always revisit the 3 goals that I set for the week before. Like, what were the top 3 things from last week? And did I do it? And I rate on a scale of 0 to 100%, because sometimes yes or no isn't good enough, because I made significant progress, but I wouldn't call it 100% complete. And again, that's probably me finding a way to find a win always, because I do not like failure. And I just think the game isn't over until I've won. So there's really no such thing as failure. But and then I reset the next top 3 goals for the week. And then I lay out my whole calendar on one page. This comes from Todd Bookspan, who introduced us, and his Win by Noon planner, which is he's the one that creates this for me. And I literally look at every single thing, and you can see where overlaps are, and where, Galen's supposed to be somewhere, I'm supposed to be somewhere, the kids are supposed to be somewhere else. Where do we need to get support? Where do we need?
You're doing this on paper. The calendar is on paper in there.
In the planner. Yeah. It's all digital, but I'm actually writing it down and analyzing it. And I'm sitting down on a Sunday to think about, how do I win the week ahead? How do I really be on fire? So that's kind of the week to week stuff. But before that, what I do with my members, and I just did it yesterday because it's the beginning of Q4, is I first put them through an exercise to say, what does it mean for you to be on fire in the 4 domains of your life? And, because if you ask people like, hey, what's your vision, Brett? Now you would go, boom, 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 boom. This is where I'm going. This is what 10 years and 20 years look like. But for me, for a long time, that was an overwhelming word. It was like, I don't know, just survive and get through the day and keep growing. I just didn't have an answer for that. So to me, I like to visualize, okay, who is Shayla at her best, on fire? What does that look like over the next 6 months? In FIRE, in your fitness, pain, energy, stamina, mobility, flexibility, vibrancy. I, your impact, the impact you're making in the world, the money you're earning and saving, the community, the contribution, the leadership. R is relationships. And how am I on fire in a relationship? How am I showing up? How am I experiencing? What kind of relationships are around me? And then the final one is enlightenment. How is my emotional well-being? How is my energy? How's my connection to God, my spirituality? So I write this out every quarter at the beginning of a planner, and it's literally like a paragraph or 2 of like, what does this mean? Because to me, how the hell can you set annual goals, quarterly goals, and even a top 3 for the week if I'm not clear about like my version of success, and how my version of success at 44 is going to be different than it was at 34 with super young kids, or versus 24. And I can't wait to be 54. Like, I can't freaking wait, because it's like, oh my gosh, could you imagine? Like, I just feel so stoked on life and the season I'm in. And I'm going to be so stoked on the next one, because it's this whole opportunity to experience and taste life in these different ways. And so anyway, so we start with that. And then I have 8 annual goals, only 8. And
year.
so, yeah, per year. And so I take 2 in each category. And I keep these the same all year because if I've really done the work right, these are kind of like pillars and stones for me that keep me at my best, that keep me on fire. These become my standards and my habits, right? So like one goal is $1.5 billion and 15 of my loan officers going to President's Club. One is sleeping 8 hours a night with 10,000 steps and 130 grams of protein. One's a power morning 5 days a week, which I have that defined. I wake up at 5:42 a.m. I do psyllium, I do water, I meditate, I work out. One was Grow the Rainmaker podcast. I launched that this year and it was defined by 50 episodes. So long story short, I get 8 goals down. And then with my members, I make them choose only 2 for the quarter.
Okay. And they don't. So you're taking the 8, breaking it down 2 per quarter.
Yeah, you can either take 2 of your annual goals, or it could be a goal within the goal. It's more like a theme or a discipline for the quarter. Like, what is it that you're working on? Last quarter, my quarterly goal was to help my tribe get through my 10-10-10 challenge. I created a 10-10-10 challenge because I really like helping people get to that place of prove yourself and become a rainmaker. Be self-made. You become the rainmaker in your life and in your business. And I created a 10-10-10 challenge. And so for the whole Q3, that's all I talked about. That's all I thought about. That's all I led through was this one challenge, because the former Shayla gets excited about something for 2.5 weeks and is like, zing, onto the next thing and onto the next thing and onto the next. So just the forcing myself to say there's only 2 things that you're focusing on. And every single week, we're going to go back and say, did you make progress? What is the next step? What is the next step? And like really go deep on that. So yesterday, I just led my crew through 1 important goal and 1 hard goal. And then, and then we elaborate. What is the key motivation? Why this goal? Why now? What would be the best outcome? Why is it important to you? Because I think a lot of people pick goals because they sound cool or they think they should do them. But the reason they fade is because they haven't really come down to the point of like, why does this really, 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 really matter? And the reason we don't seek success is because there's a lack of consistency and people are in conflict. They say they want this, but yet they're doing that. And then you lose trust with yourself and you lose trust with your team. And certainly you lose trust at home with your family. And if you cannot get alignment there and say, this is the main thing, the main thing, the main thing, the main thing, and you trust yourself to just stick to the main thing and get your family's buy-in, it's really hard to get anywhere significant. And so I really try to help people get that clarity and then get in alignment with this is the thing, and then have a process every day to sit down with your planner and go, okay, I'm going to do a hot 15. I'm going to spend 15 minutes. I'm going to look at my whole calendar for the day. I'm going to look at every meeting I've got set up. What am I coming in with? What is the value I'm bringing? What do I need to get out of it? What do I need to delegate? So we're not just running around unconsciously and reactive, but we're coming into each opportunity on purpose and by design. We have a call list if we were calling. We have a meeting list of what meetings need to be booked. We have a top 3 for the day. And it's just all of a sudden you start living your life on fire because you go, hey, I got my morning done because that matters to me, that I have my health in check. I was with my kids yesterday at the gastroenterologist and the day before at the allergist, and I was at volleyball practice. Whereas before, I never had a planner. I was just running by the seat of my pants all the time. And so this intentionality has really helped me find sustainability. And I think it's helped people focus on less, because stress and overwhelm is what prevents people from getting there. And so if they can really go, these are the top 3 things, I'm going to knock it out. I'm going to win by noon. And then quarter by quarter, you become less of a mess. You become more intentional, more clear, more dialed in. And once you build that self-trust and you go, I trust myself. I trust that I can set a vision. I can recalibrate. I can fall off. I can have a bad day. I could show up grumpy. I could yell at my kids, but I can just recalibrate, forgive myself. That's when you start seeing somebody that's got enduring confidence and that is living their life by their design instead of just surviving it.
Shayla, you just gave the greatest masterclass in clarity in the last 10, 15 minutes. And what is so cool is, everybody online's a coach these days, right? And one of my talk tracks recently. I was like, how do you be more real in a fake world, right? Because you go online and you see social media, and I see these are acquaintances or friends of mine that I know personally they have a terrible marriage, right? Like, I mean, they've told me this.
Yeah.
And yet 4 weeks later, they're launching a class on how to have a better marriage. And I'm going, guys, there's no judgment if you fix it in the last 4 weeks, but I don't know that it's ready for the world yet. And it's just, you can tell when you're dealing with just an absolute expert that lives it. Like when you were doing that. And I love the clarity. So where I believe that everyone needs to start is figuring out exactly what you want out of your life.
Yeah.
Like that's the most important thing. And the way you do that is get strategic at different points in the future. So if you're 24 listening to this, figure out what you want your life to look like at 34, 44, and 54. But I mean like, not like a little bit, like, I mean granular. Like when I did my vision board, and all these people online, everybody's poo-pooing vision boards. Vision board changed my life. I figured out exactly what I wanted. I put it on a board behind my desk and I stared at it every day. And then I established goals and marched towards that. And then and it was about 5 years and I accomplished all of it. I thought it would take my whole life. And then I put that one away and I made a new one. And it's funny as I got more and more successful, like the material stuff fell off of it and it became more about experiences with people I loved and different things. But so the number one thing I talk to people about when I start, if I'm coaching someone, is what do you actually want out of your life? What do you want the relationship with your partner to look like? And almost play it like a movie, right? So, for me, I was doing this at my early 20s, and I knew exactly what I was looking for in a partner. I knew what I was looking for. I just figured those things out. So when I'm dating, I was dating, these women, and I met my wife, and I went, oh my, this is it. She's everything. She's like, you and I are the hard charging, let's go make it out. My wife is like sweetest angel from heaven, wakes up every morning just, hey babe, it's an amazing day. I mean, the most beautiful, joyous person. And 25 years later, she's exactly the same person, right? That she was then. So figuring out those things, the unlock for me, Shayla, was then how do I plot progress and know if I'm on or off track?
Right.
So I am like you, the most competitive person. Like if I go to a gym and get on a treadmill with other people, I look around and think, I'm going to stick on here and go faster, longer than this person. And I don't care if I die, I will have to beat them. It's something that they don't even know we're in a competition of. It's the drive to win. And so I took all that instead of going external and competing. I was like, how do I plot? So I plotted my net worth. What did I want it to land 30 years in the future? And then every month when I do it, I'm on or off track because as dollars come in or I make investments, and the better I run the companies, the more profits we create. All that rolls into my net worth. And I have a really systematic way to see in my vehicle that I have, my fantasy team, which is Brett Tanner. I draft my same team every season. I don't get to draft other teams, right? You're drafting Shayla. I'm drafting Tanner. Am I on or off track? And because for me, once I saw like, okay, I'm on track, then the game becomes, of course, you're going to know where this goes. How do I get ahead? How do I start living it in 2029, even though it's 2025? How do I get 10 years ahead of my plan? And you're really, it's real-time feedback because every month you come in, I report the numbers, I look at it and go, am I or am I not? And I think the biggest mistake people make, so the people who are listening to this, if you're locked in right now, number one, figure out exactly what you want. And then number two, you got to figure out how you're going to measure that thing. The third thing I walk people through shows I believe they've got to determine life has costs. And there may be a season where you're going to pay some costs. You've had many seasons, but like when you're out there door knocking, when I was out there door knocking, that was a cost. I didn't get charged up in the morning to go out and door knock, but it was the way that I could achieve my goals.
Yeah.
Right. And then the last part is just stop at nothing to get what you said you wanted. And there's going to be hard times and there's going to be challenges. There's going to be all those things. But it's more rewarding than you could possibly ever imagine when you get there. And I think you providing that clarity is so cool. And it's such a powerful, I love the Sunday. I love looking back, what was great, what I want to change. I love looking forward. I think it's so powerful of writing down your tone, see where the gaps are. And to your point, does that flow right? Does that give you any energy or take energy?
Yeah, you're flowing right. And so in addition to having a planner and teaching my members to do it and walking them through the clarity exercises every quarter and like that they're doing it every quarter and then living it out and then seeing where they get off track and what their limiting beliefs are that pop up and all the crap that we have, the bad programming we've got to override. Every week on a live coaching call on Zoom, they're plotting progress and I'm guiding them through that. And they are recalibrating and doing some self-reflection, because most people spend more time planning their next vacation than they ever would planning their life, or actually looking in the truth mirror and say, how am I doing and where can I lean in? And then empowering themselves in that direction. And whether it's shame or whether it's just distraction or being on social media, but it's taking that practice. So every week we do that live. I do a 45-minute call live. I'm also integrating one business system every week. So like not overwhelmed, but like one system around relationships or time management or, being better in the interview or booking appointments or what have you, so that, they're progressing in terms of their masterful skills. And then once a month, I do a look back in those 4 categories, FIRE, were you on fire? And where did you give your best effort? I don't want to see all the ways in which you sucked. I want you to highlight over the last month, where did you win? Maybe you went on a hike. Maybe you went and saw a doctor and got, your blood work done. Like, we are always making progress. A lot of times we just can't see it. And even the tiniest bit of progress that we're plotting along can help us go, oh, boom, now I see this month what I want to do to improve that 1% or whatever the case is. So I'm so happy that you said you got to have the vision and then you got to plot the progress. And then the stuff in the middle is why you have a coach. You have somebody outside of yourself giving feedback that will listen to the words you say and say, wait a minute, I keep hearing you say this, which means you possibly have a limiting belief around that. Why do you believe that? Why do you think it's too hard? Why do you think that blah, 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 blah? And those have been the most enlightening conversations for me, because it's like, oh, I don't know where that programming came from, but it's not serving the vision that I have right now. How am I going to get over that and change my thinking and expand my mindset and retool my calendar, whatever the tactic needs to be? But a coach and a process and a framework is really powerful, which is why I'm spending the rest of my life coaching and doing what you're doing, Brett. It's super gratifying. And without it, for me, I would just be a driven person spinning in circles, doing good, but never great or exceptional. And so that's the way I choose to give back.
Shayla, first of all, you're going to have to come back to the podcast. We have to have you back because I know our listeners need it, but I needed to hear it. It's so cool to see someone living their passion, right? It's so cool. So I want to switch gears to kind of the wrap up here. Give me when you think about books you recommend to people, I know you're a voracious reader. And if you want to give me your top 3 most gifted, the top 3 your favorites, however you want to, what are the books that you would recommend for the listeners?
How to Win Friends and Influence People changed my life. And it's a book that I could reread every year just to remember human behavior and how we're all wired, because most everything is about dealing with other humans and just having better relations and figuring that out. I really like Code of the Extraordinary Mind by Vishen Lakhiani. That really helped me with visioning, and there's some good exercises in there. Gosh, I've loved every one of Ben Hardy's books. The 10X is easier than 2X. You had me read that, Brett. I give all the credit to you. I read it, I Kindled it, I Audibled it, I've highlighted it. It's so profound and good. I love it so much.
And Who Not How. So his trilogy he did with
Dan
Sullivan, unbelievable, right? Who Not How, 10X is not 2X. There was a third one.
Gapping.
Have you seen it? And so I was in actually Dan Sullivan's coaching program with high-powered entrepreneurs. It actually wasn't, for me, the best part for me of being a Dan Sullivan's was Ben taking Dan's ideas and making them actionable, right?
Yes.
That was the best part. Have you seen, hold on, I'm not running away, but since you mentioned Ben Hardy, you've got my bag here. His new book, I'm only like 20 pages in, but it's
Scaling.
Yeah. The
I
Science
haven't
of
read it.
Scaling.
Do you love it?
It's you've got to get it.
Okay.
You will absolutely. It's I'll tell you what got me when Tony Robbins says this is the book that I wanted to write. I'm like, well, then you got me. The That's where, I lock in.
Brett, what book are we reading for Be Wealthy right now? Because I am not done that homework assignment.
Well, we are reading, good question. So our mastermind is next week. The Slight Edge.
The Slight Edge.
The Slight Edge. You already live it, but I think it will be a book that you could take and bring into your program. And you'll find, it was on my list forever. And it was like the third time Caitlin brought it up. I went, okay, I'm going to throw that in and I'm going to read it. So as we're wrapping up here, I want to ask you this. I want to imagine you go and transport yourself back and you're going to talk to the 21-year-old or 20-year-old Shayla. What would you say to her? What advice would you have?
Bet on yourself. Find your people. Find mentors in all the different areas of your life that you can learn from, because one person probably won't have it all, but you'll find somebody for discipline. You'll find somebody for spirituality. You'll find somebody for the way that they mother their kids. And study, learn, raise your hand, ask questions, get in the rooms, get a coach. And trust the process. You have a long life ahead of you. So get good at one thing at a time and trust yourself to know what that next thing is, where you're stumbling, where you're frustrated, but build mastery one thing at a time with a lot of support and mentors and an awesome environment around you. Like, be very careful to curate positivity and awesome people around you, because, energy is contagious. And so when you're betting on yourself, be around people who are also going to wave the flag and cheer you on.
I can't think of a better lesson for every young person out there today. So Shayla, if people want to interact with you, if they're watching this, they're like, I want to be in Catalyst, where do we send listeners? And we'll include all this in the show notes too, but where would you want to send them to?
Go to my website, shaylagifford.com. You will find my podcast episodes there. I run the Rainmaker podcast. It is for mortgage people, but I think it totally applies. I do a lot of solo episodes too, so I teach a lot of these frameworks. The second thing is I have a Rainmaker archetype assessment, because for most people, their challenge with visibility and putting themselves out there and being more bold and asking for the business is that they aren't clear on their strongest way to do that. What is your strength? Are you a marketer? Are you a networker? Are you a technician? Or are you a trust builder? So I really help you in a 4-minute assessment and the following blueprint, like, what are your strengths and also what's your Achilles heel of your type, and where do you have to expand your comfort zone so that you can keep getting growth and scale. And then obviously I've got a page about Catalyst. You can get on my newsletter. You can book time with my team. So shaylagifford.com can get you all you need.
I would say if you're in the mortgage industry, you want to go to the next level, you come with my highest compliments, and your pride is I know you deeply as a person. I've got to spend a lot of time with Galen, and you are absolutely the real deal. Again, in a fake world, you're one of the most real people I know. So thanks for all you do for our industry, for helping so many, sharing so much to our listeners today. I'm grateful for you. Thank you so much, Shayla. We got to have you back, and I will see you next week.
All right. Have a good day.